from New Delhi. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Russia-Ukraine. Russian Defense Ministry has stated that the Russian defense units have destroyed 44 Ukrainian drones in an overnight attack. Previously, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy released a video statement saying that the Russian forces have launched over 450 drones and 45 missiles in overnight attacks on Ukraine on Saturday, targeting Ukraine's energy sector as well as other infrastructures. Zelenskyy has also reiterated his calls on Kyiv's allies to introduce stronger sanctions against the Russian energy sector in response to Russia's intensifying attacks over the past week.
Багато балістики, щонайменше 25 балістичних ракет було. Також були аеробалістичні та крилаті ракети, ще більш ніж 450 безпілотників різних типів, дуже наглий. Багато в чому удар демонстративний. Тиску на Росію замало, і будь-які послаблення в уже існуючих форматах тиску тільки мотивують Путіна затягувати цю війну, завдавати більшої шкоди нашій країні, нашим людям. Слабкість реагування на російську наглість, саме наглість, дає мотив Росії продовжувати цю війну. Потрібно стільки санкцій, стільки тиску, стільки підтримки життю, щоб у Росії не залишились засобів до існування в умовах.
Now for this discussion, we welcome Professor Vasilin Popovsky. He's a professor and vice dean of Jindal Global Law School, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us again. Good to see you. Professor, now looking at this continuous escalation of attacks on Ukraine, how effective are international sanctions in deterring Russia's continued attacks on Ukraine, and what role should Ukrainian allies do in responding to these escalation of drone and missile strikes now?
Yes, Asuma, it's another day of Russian strikes. Unfortunately, some casualties reported, 400 drones and 45 ballistic missiles. Well, that's only what Russia can do. They cannot do anything else. They cannot talk, they cannot think, they cannot negotiate. Everything that Russia does is killing civilians, women and children, every week, sometime every day. And for that matter, it's like Hamas in a big country like Russia, absolutely nothing to talk with Russia. It needs to be contained, it needs to be sanctioned. Sanctions don't work only because China, India, and big countries don't impose sanctions, by the way. Only Western countries in America, in Australia, and Canada, and Japan, and South Korea. If half of the world does not impose sanctions on Russia, they will not work, because half of the world is buying Russian oil, gas, weapons, and everything else. What Russia can do is simply to kill civilians, nothing else. And your question should go to the governments in China, India, Indonesia, and Africa, and ask them why they continue sponsoring the war by buying Russian oil and gas. Sanctions do work if they are global, if they are universal, like the one Iraq-Kuwait aggression. After that, the United Nations imposed global sanctions, and those sanctions did work. They did contain Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein couldn't do any more aggression and any more development of weapons after the sanctions. Sanctions did work against Southern Rhodesia and South Africa back in the 60s. Sanctions did work against Libya, and Muammar Gaddafi surrendered the terrorist suspect. Sanctions work only if they are global, if everybody follows them. If half of the countries do not follow them, they don't work. And for that matter, yes, my appeal is for everybody, every single government of the world, to stop buying Russian products, any products, comprehensive embargo. Stop dealing with Russia. And that's the only way this war will end, I'm afraid.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Popovsky, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic now. Now, Russia has issued a warning to the European Union, saying it will not allow the EU to provoke retaliatory measures over visa policies that could harm Russia's national interests. The European Union recently announced a ban on issuing new multiple entry Schengen visas to Russian citizens, a move that Russia considers a provocation. According to Russia's foreign ministry, this decision is part of a wider strategy to test Russia's response, with the EU hoping to incite some form of retaliation. Russia says it is prepared to respond in a way that is both symmetrical and asymmetrical, depending on what it deems to do in the country's best interest. Russia also claims that the EU's actions could backfire and drive Europe towards a self-destructive path, particularly as it affects legal Russian tourists and visitors who have proper documentation and financial backing. While the ban targets new multiple entry visas, existing visas for Russians remain valid for now, but Russia has vowed to take action if the EU continues with such policies. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Professor Vasilin Popovsky. He's a professor and vice dean at Jindal Global Law School, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us again. Professor, now looking at this, how could this EU's visa restrictions on Russian citizens, not journalists, impact diplomatic relations between Russia and Europe? Should visa policies be used as a political tool?
Well, the relationship is absolutely minimal, exactly because of the Russian aggression in Ukraine. It's not the European Union imposing visa restrictions 4 years later. The relationship between Europeans and Russia stopped when Russia invaded Ukraine. It's so simple. Every escalation is done by Moscow, by Russia. If they withdraw from Ukraine, the relationship will be reinvented, revitalized. And it's really funny. I'm smiling at every statement by Zakharova, the Russian Foreign Ministry's spokesperson, when she said there will be retaliation. What retaliation? What can Russia do? Will Russia impose restrictions for foreigners to come to Russia? No, Westerners want to go to Russia anymore. Nobody in the world wants to go to Russia anymore. It's a prison. It's a dangerous place. Nobody should go to Russia. If Russia imposes restrictions of anybody going, that's good news. Don't go to Russia. You might be arrested at the airport for nothing, put in prison, and then negotiated to be exchanged. Simple. So all this talks about the West escalating the diplomatic warfare is absolutely nonsense. It's actually a response to the fact that Russia is trying to inflict some damage on the West by putting some spies, some agents, KGB people into the Western country and to use them for their manipulative purposes. That's all. That's what the European Union is trying to safeguard itself by restricting some individuals to enter Russia. That's so simple here. Every time Russia is talking about retaliation, and let's see a couple of days later what would that be, it will be another statement by Zakharova in a couple of days saying we will do another retaliation. That's all Russia can do. As I mentioned earlier, everything that Russia can do is killing civilians in Ukraine and empty talk about everything else. You know, a week ago they talked about Burevestnik, a very dangerous weapon they are going to start producing again, to reactivating the. That system was disbanded in the Soviet Union 50 years ago because it's absolutely useless rocket. They found out, the Soviets back in the 1960s, that Burevestnik doesn't work. It's very heavy, easily to be spotted, easily to be targeted. It doesn't bring any military advantage. So all the Russian talk is about that. Reactivating something from the Soviet era, the same with Oreshnik, the same with Topol. Every speech by Sakharov or by Lavrov or by Putin makes me really laugh. Somebody knowing the Soviet Union, it's laughable to hear those threats from Moscow because they're absolutely empty, they are useless. It's simply to respond something for the Russian audience that they are doing something, but that something is actually absolutely nothing. Don't listen to Sakharova, please. Don't ask me anymore to comment what Kremlin, Sakharova, Lavrov, or Putin say. This is always an empty talk. It's manipulative talk. It's about their own population to stay obedient, slavish, and not to protest. That's all. Thank you.
With that, I would like to thank Professor Vasilin Popolsky for always joining us and sharing your insight on these topics. Thank you. Now we